While military services is considered as honorable profession, in many cultures there are many reasons that cause dishonor in this profession. One of these is the act of surrendering in the military terminology around the world. However, it is generally considered more honorable to perish than to surrender. In the context of the Russian-Ukraine war, this is perspective that has changed dramatically. Due to the difficult situation in which the Russian army finds itself, Russian soldiers have a different opinion. Their only desire is to survive. In recent days, images of the Russian soldiers surrendering to the Ukrainian Armed Forces have emerged. After the clash between the Ukrainian and the Russian Armed Forces, these Russian soldiers who preferred to stay alive took refuge with the Ukrainian army. The footage of the incident was published on social media. Let's take a look at the story of this Russian soldier who defected to the Ukrainian army. As the Pioneer team, we continue to bring you developments regarding the Russia-Ukraine war. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so that you don't miss our daily map reports and reports on the agenda. I also read all your comments on our videos. Please continue to express your opinions about our content in the comments. Let's start if you are ready. The Pioneer reports. The Russian army is trying to break the resistance of the Ukrainian army and advance on the front line. However, the Ukrainian Armed Forces, with the support of its people, are putting up a strong resistance against the Russian army's invasion attempts. The front line is an extremely tense and tight situation. The Russian army has been unable to make new gains despite intense bombardment and attacks for days, and the losses of the Russian army are increasing day by day. However, Russian commanders continue to carry out attacks because they are afraid of the president of the Russian Federation, Vladimir Putin. In recent days, one of the areas where the Russian army's attacks intensified was the western part of Avdiivka. The Russian army, which captured Avdiivka after a strategic withdrawal of Ukrainian troops, is afraid of losing the area. Therefore, the Russian army wants to further improve the defense of Avdiivka. The possibility of the Ukrainian Armed Forces launching a counterattack at any moment makes the Russian army nervous. It is known that the intense clashes have been taking place in the west of Avdiivka in recent days, and the Russian army tried to break through the Ukrainian army's defense line with a down raid. However, the Ukrainian Armed Forces units put up an effective resistance for a long time, and the advancing units of the Russian army suffered heavy casualties and lost many soldiers during this attack. After the furious fighting, the Ukrainian Armed Forces began to survey the area with unmanned aerial vehicles. During this survey, a surviving Russian soldier was spotted. Thanks to his vigilance, the Ukrainian drone operator spotted this soldier. All of the Russian soldiers has been destroyed by the intense resistance of the Ukrainian soldiers. The surviving Russian soldier was terrified. He had two options. He could either surrender to or take his own life. For the next few hours, Ukrainian soldiers observed the Russian soldiers from the drone. Then another drone landed in the area and it had a note on it, which read, "All of your friends had been destroyed. You have no choice. Surrender. Don't worry. From now on, you will be a guest of the Ukrainian Armed Forces." The note was left on the Russian soldier who was waiting anxiously. After reading the note, the soldier assessed the difficult situation he was in. Realizing that he had no choice, he first put down his weapons and then his other equipment. Putting his hands on his head, he looked towards the Ukrainian army drone and signaled his surrender. The Ukrainian army drone then informed the Russian soldier what else he had to do. The Russian soldier was asked to follow the drone, and the Russian soldier proceeds through a deforested area, and when he encountered Ukrainian troops, he laid down on the ground and surrendered. During this process, the Ukrainian army continued to follow the route that the Russian soldier had taken, because if the Russian army realized that the soldier might surrender, they could make a move to destroy him. The points behind the Russian soldier were shelled by the Ukrainian army, blocking the Russian army's line of sight. Thus, the Russian army did not realize early and the Russian soldier had surrendered. Even if they had, it would have been too late. The Russian soldier was taken by the Ukrainian soldiers and taken to the headquarters for the interrogation. Here, the Russian soldier was given clean clothes, food, and drinks. He was also given the opportunity to rest well. During the interrogation process, the Russian soldier made the following statements. They gave us something as instructions in the case we were captured during the fighting. If there was a possibility, we were asked to self-destruct with our wounded friends. At the beginning, many of our friends and I were against this because it was a very difficult decision to make, both for ourselves and for our wounded friends, but our commanders didn't care much about this. When you captured me, I was facing this dilemma to destroy myself and to destroy my wounded friends. My God, what a difficult choice. I was afraid of you. I thought your drone would shoot me down, but when the note came, I was relieved. Our commanders ordered us to die in the comfortable conditions away from the front line. I couldn't fulfill that order. They'll probably come after me, but I trust you. I know you won't give me to them. Surrender was something we always discussed with our friends, but none of us had the opportunity. Or rather, we were afraid that if we surrendered and the army caught us, if we didn't surrender today, we would try to surrender again another day. What we went through in the army wore us down, and being there is worse than being in hell. Some local sources have published testimony from the Russian soldiers' interrogation. It seems that the orders within the Russian army have changed considerably. Russian commanders must have realized that Russian soldiers are increasingly inclined to surrender to the Ukrainian army. So they are ordering them to self-destruct. But the decision to carry out this order is a very difficult one. It is unlikely that the Russian soldiers will carry out this order, as in this is the case. This shows that the extent of the moral and discipline problems within the Russian army. The effective resistance of the Ukrainian Armed Forces weakens both the offensive power of the Russian army and negatively affect the motivation of the soldiers. In addition to this resistance, the attitude of the Russian commanders towards the soldiers also negatively affects the course of the war. Under these circumstances, continuing the war does not seem to be a logical option for the Russian army. However, the war continues due to the insistence of the President of the Russian Federation, Vladimir Putin. The increasing tendency of the Russian soldiers to surrender makes Putin an increasingly angry character. The complex situation has led to a serious tension between the Russian people, the military, and the Russian leadership. So, what do you think? Do you think that the resistance of the Ukrainian armed forces is increasing the tendency of the Russian soldiers to surrender? How does the attitude of the Russian commanders influence the process of the surrender of Russian soldiers? How does the strategy of the Ukrainian army affect Russia's military presence? How does Russia's war strategy affect the surrender rate of its troops? So let me know in the comments, because I read and I care about all of your comments.